So as some of you guys probably know, I recently made a video where I actually talked about 3 players I think the Richmond Football Club could of course go and trade for in the 2025 AFL off-season. Again, a lot of you guys seem to really like that. It did pretty well, and a lot of you guys actually agreed and started some really good conversations about who the Tigers should actually go and trade for. So I thought it'd be interesting that in today's video, I of course did a very similar thing, but I actually did the Essendon Football Club. Again, I've got 2 obvious guys I think the Bombers will try and trade for that I'll talk about it second and third, but one of the guys that I think is less obvious, who I think is an interesting name, depending how you want to go about it, is a guy like Ivan Soldo. Now, Essendon are probably going to need a ruckman for next year. I mean, they've been playing Todd Goldstein as their main ruckman, and I mean, I love Goldie. I think Todd Goldstein has been one of the better ruckmans for quite a while in the AFL now, but at this point, the guy's like 37 years old. He can't run out a game, and he gives you really good short bursts, and he can actually be really competitive, but I mean, defensively, he's just not what he used to be, obviously, and it's just not a great thing. Again, unfortunately for them, Nick Bryan, I think, is expected to miss like most of next season, if not all of next season, with his ACL injury, while Sam Draper as well, I think, has like a mid kind of year, maybe even a little bit later, expected return date, and that's if he of course stays with the Essendon Football Club. Again, as we know, Brisbane have been really linked to him as of late. A couple other Melbourne teams, apparently Adelaide, are also linked to him. Again, there is a massive chance he could actually leave just because the offers are so big, and if he was to leave, Todd Goldstein was to retire, or even if Todd Goldstein does re-sign, I think that will mainly be for VFL and helping the youth. I don't know if he'll play much next year. I think there's just a massive hole for a ruckman at Essendon right now, and if they want to, add free agents and try and trade for players like we know they are going to want to do, and are going to try and push for the 8, next year, I don't think you can roll into next year without a main ruckman on your list. You can't roll into it with Todd Goldstein, who should probably be playing VFL, with Draper, who's going to come back halfway through the year, and Bryan, who's probably going to miss the whole entire year. I think you need to add someone for the short term, and a really cheap option I think they could actually get, who, he's a premiership ruckman, does happen to be Ivan Soldo. Now, again, as I said, Ivan Soldo, he was a premiership ruckman. He, at some stages during like 2019 to 2021, there were some stages where this guy genuinely looked like an elite ruckman and was playing really well, of course, before the ACL injury and all of that, right? And then there's been a lot of different theories and opinions. Again, ever since he got to Port Adelaide, he hasn't really looked that good there, and there's been a couple off-field issues, off-field rumors. There's been a lot of rumors that his partner was actually really, really unhappy in Adelaide and wanted to move back to Melbourne desperately, and a bunch of other off-field issues that he ended up requesting a trade to St Kilda last year, but he actually failed his medical. Again, he's a lot healthier this year. His VFL performances have actually been pretty good. It's just when he gets in the AFL, he doesn't seem to really click with Port Adelaide and the system that they've got going on. But I just wonder, if Essendon were to offer up like a 3rd round pick for Ivan Soldo, could he be a really cheap replacement to Draper and Bryan just for a year, right? Just for a year, you could have him as a replacement, and then for the next year or two after that, you've got a really, really solid backup ruckman that can play in the VFL and, come into the AFL if you were to get another injury again. I think that makes a whole lot of sense for a 3rd round pick to help boost their ruck core that has just been absolutely decimated with injuries and whatever the hell is going to go on with Todd Goldstein. I actually think he'd be a really good, cheap solution who, if he got back in Melbourne and got back into some form, which I think he would, I think he'd actually play really, really good and help Essendon. Again, this guy's a really good tap ruckman as well, so I think he'd be able to help them out quite a bit. Again, That's one of the cheaper ones that I think they could obviously get. There's two main players that I think they're going to be really linked to, and we'll start off with the first one out of the two, who I don't think they'll get this year, but they're still really interested in him. They're going to go hard for him next year, especially. But that does happen to be Zac Butters again. It's probably only like a 15 or 20% chance they could convince him to come this year and convince Port to actually trade him. But goddamn, from all the reports, they are absolutely circling Zac Butters. And I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense. You got people like Matthew Lloyd who have really questioned the star power in Essendon's midfield, but also questioned the leadership that Essendon have and who's going to be the future captain after Zach Merritt. And I legitimately believe Zac Butters could exactly be that guy. I mean, the fact is, like, he's only like 24 years old, which is insane. And when he's healthy, he was a top 5 player in the league literally like last year and the year before to most experts and most people. And now he's had a bunch of injuries, but he's starting to come back into it. I don't think he's been as good because of issues with Port Adelaide and what's going on there. But I genuinely believe if Essendon offered him a massive deal and went up to Port Adelaide and offered them some first round picks, I think you could absolutely get this deal done. So at the time of making this video, Essendon have pick number 6 and pick number 9, which wouldn't get the deal done for Zac Butters just because obviously these picks are probably going to get pushed back due to academies and father-sons. Like, these pick 6 and 9 could honestly end up being like pick 8 and 15 at this rate, and that's just the reality of things. So I don't think it would get it done, but if you offered up pick 6 and 9 and maybe something else for Zac Butters, I think Port would definitely think about it. Again, I still don't know how that would go, and I really don't want to get into that because whatever you say, you know, Essendon fans are rightfully going to be like, that's too much, and Port Adelaide fans are rightfully going to be like, that's not enough. So, again, it is really, really interesting. I mean, Essendon, as I said, they need some star power in that midfield. Darcy Parish, I think, has been hit with a lot of injuries, and he just hasn't come back really that well. I mean, Dylan Shield is not in that midfield anymore. Durham and Butters, I think they're two really big main ones. I mean, Sardis and Hobbs aren't really doing a whole lot. Hobbs is okay. Sardis is still being in the VFL. All of these guys that they probably thought were going to be their next midfield stars have just not really worked out for them. Again, maybe if I'm throwing a player like Sardis or Hobbs in the Zac Butters trade, a young guy who might still be good under a different system and you know, under a different team could be in the trade. I mean, I think you would just change the team up so much if you moved on from a couple of those guys and you had a main midfield trio of Butters, Durham, and of course, Zac Butters. That would be, oh my God, that midfield would be so good. You know, Ivan Soldo hitting it down to them instead of Todd Goldstein. I mean, actually Ivan Soldo, not the Ivan Soldo we've got now. That'd be a really cool, I think, move to maybe see. So I think Zac Butters will be one they're really looking at. Maybe the future captain of the club as well. But again, the one we all know that they really, really want, and they're going to offer up pretty much their left nut to try and get, does happen to, of course, be Harley Reid. Again, from a lot of reports, them and Richmond are the two current favourites. You know, they got the most money. They've got the most trade assets. I mean, the reported trade was pick 6 and 9 and a future first round pick for Harley Reid. I mean, I think if you're Essendon, you're definitely happy with that because Harley Reid is going to be 10 times better, most likely, than anyone you get at those picks for your club. Again, he won't be a short-term solution. I still think it will take Harley Reid a couple years to really develop into being the player that he absolutely can be. But long-term, I mean, yeah, you're getting hopefully what will be the best player in the AFL one day. So, again, that will be interesting to see if that does unfold. Harley Reid, from reports, has also said that he's currently happy at West Coast and he will stay out this year. Some people are saying he will request a trade maybe next year if that all does unfold. Again, we'll definitely have to wait and see, and that's going to be an interesting talking point for the whole entire year because I can't see him re-signing, but it also could come to like a week before the trade period, and it's going to be a very similar situation where Port Adelaide and North Melbourne Port just out of nowhere came up with a really good trade package for North Melbourne that they just couldn't refuse for Horne-Francis. And Essendon might do the same thing. They might come up to West Coast like a week before the trade period and are like, look, we'll give you 6, 9 of future first. We'll also part ways with one of Ben Hobbs or Sardis, whichever one you want to give a go. Let's just make this happen. You know, let's not wait for the next year. Let's do it now. And I think, yeah, it could benefit both teams very, very much. I mean, imagine Harley, Reid and Durham running around your midfield for the future and eventually adding building pieces around them, using their salary cap to continuously go out and get more free agents and trade players later on. Again, I think Butters will be, he'll be in the free agency next year. Imagine if they targeted him then and they got him then to add with Reid and Merritt and Durham. That would be absolutely insane. So there's a lot of ifs and buts for this video. It's always like playing NBA 2K, but it's always really interesting conversations and talking points to be had about all of these AFL players and who could be requesting trades, who could be obviously moving on, all of the above. And I think Essendon should definitely take a close look at all 3 of these players. You know, Ivan Stor is very much a cheap positional need, while the other 2 are definitely star-studded players that you should be really looking to add to your team. So I think Essendon will review all this. They'll go over all of it. I can see them maybe coming out with a player or 2 in this free agency trade period. I mean, they just got to, right? Again, I'd very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. Subscribe to the channel. Again, for all the latest AFL videos, sports content, all of the above, my gaming channel / movie channel, which will be getting linked in the description down below. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.